back to MIP News at Noon. I'm Amanda Pearson. With tensions around the current presidential election rising, we are continuing our coverage of possible international threats. Today we are focusing on the threat of biological warfare with Russia. As some of you are aware, in 2011, an island in the Aral Sea, codenamed Vaz Island, was discovered to have the materials and makings of a biological weapon. These included some of the most deadly diseases we have on our planet. Today we are focusing on one of those diseases, smallpox. To give us more of a history on the disease, we turn to our Smithsonian correspondent, Sam. Sam?
Thanks, Amanda. Smallpox was believed to have originated in early agricultural groups in northern Africa. This is suggested by the fact that mummies from 15,000 BC were uncovered with traces of the disease on them. Further evidence of this are Hittite clay tablets, which blame the Egyptians for spreading the disease to them during war. It is also speculated that the Egyptians spread the disease into East Asia along trade routes. Smallpox reached Europe in the 6th century and was then spread to South America along with the conquistadors, which resulted in massive death tolls for the native populations. The disease was later spread into North Africa with later European voyages. In 1967, the World Health Assembly started a global immunization campaign against the disease. Through the use of mass vaccinations, the disease was slowly eradicated from each country. The last naturally known occurring case of smallpox was Ali Malin, which occurred in Somalia in October 1977. 1 year after this, there was a non-naturally occurring case, which was Janet Parker, which occurred by the disease spreading through ventilation systems in a research lab. On May 1980, the World Health Organization officially pronounced the disease to be eradicated.
So Sam, if the disease was eradicated, why is it still a threat to us today?
Well, Amanda, in the 1980s, the Soviet Union worked on biological weapons, including smallpox in an aerosolized form. Although this was never used, this did raise massive concerns among scientists. If smallpox were to be reintroduced into the modern-day world, the death tolls would be massive due to the fact that the vaccine is no longer given. The only known stocks of smallpox currently are kept in secure research facilities in Siberia and the U.S. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Sam, for laying that groundwork. Next, we turn to Dr. Justine, the head researcher of smallpox with the CDC, to talk about the virus itself and how it can spread. Doctor?
Thanks, Amanda. Smallpox is a large DNA virus. It has a single double-stranded DNA that replicates in the cytoplasm of its host cell. This is unique among DNA viruses because they usually replicate in the nucleus. Smallpox utilizes its own enzymes in order to replicate its DNA without the host cell's input. The technical name for this is the virial virus. The virial virus is a member of the poxvirus family, and it is thought to have evolved from the African rodent virus 10,000 years ago. Since it's a member of the poxvirus family, it cross-reacts with other members of the poxvirus family, such as monkeypox or cowpox. This is why milkmaids that are often infected with cowpox prove to be immune from smallpox. Smallpox thrives in low humidity and low temperature. It can stay in their environment for a very short period of time. Humans are the only known reservoir, and since there's no animal vector, the community must be densely populated in order for smallpox to spread efficiently. Smallpox is spread through inhaling the virus, or less efficiently through direct contact with the skin lesions.
So doctor, tell us what happens once a person is infected.
When a person is infected with the virus, it enters the bloodstream by the 3rd or 4th day. It is then spread to other tissues, and the symptoms begin to start at about 1 week. There are 2 main strains, the major and the minor. The virulent major is the more severe form. Hemorrhagic virulent major is the most deadly. It causes hemorrhages in the mucous membrane, such as the lungs or the digestive tract. And there's also hemorrhages on the skin. It is almost always fatal. Patients end up suffocating on blood and fluid that is in their lungs. And the individual is very contagious and very infectious during this time, as the coughs aerosolize the virus. Back to you, Amanda.
Wow, that sounds truly terrible. to talk about how this nasty disease was treated and the plans in place if this does become an outbreak, we turn to Dr. Madeline Cox of the Bethesda Naval Hospital. Dr. Cox?
Thanks, Amanda. In the old days, methods of treatment included giving sick patients 12 bottles of beer every day. But after that proved unsuccessful, we would later graduate to a preventative technique called variolation. Variolation is a primitive form of vaccination and included taking pus from the pustules of infected patients and directly injecting it into those that were not infected yet. Although the mechanism wasn't fully understood before, we now know that this provided the infected patient with a less serious immune reaction while still allowing the body to effectively create antibodies for this virus. There are recordings of prisoners in 1721 who were variolated and later proved to be immune. According to the U.S. National Library of Medicine, between 1 to 2% of those variolated died, as compared to 30% who died when they contracted the disease naturally. Our current methods for treatment are less established. The current method of treatment is to have the patient placed in an isolation room and fluids are to be monitored. If the patient is exposed to the virus and vaccinated within 4 days, the reaction can be lessened or even prevented. This vaccine comes from a more friendly relative of the smallpox virus called vaccinia. The CDC claims that 95% of those vaccinated have showed prevention against the smallpox virus. Although we have come a long way with the prevention and treatment of this virus, doctors and researchers alike are working on finding better treatment techniques for those that are infected. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Doctor. Although, as we have heard, smallpox does still pose a threat, we would like to remind our viewers that there is indeed a stockpile of the vaccine in the U.S. that can be distributed quickly should there be an outbreak. That's all we have time for today. Join us after the break as we investigate the threat of Twitter on the English language. Thank you.